This is why bears cannot survive in Africa. Bears are the most dominant carnivores walking the earth today. All over the world, these ancient survivors are famous for their power, ferocity, and adaptability. But there is one place they are seemingly unable to adapt to: Africa. Why is this? And what circumstances would bears need in order to survive and thrive on the African continent? Let's talk about it. Bear habitats. All modern bears are part of the Ursidae family, a group of animals that has been around for nearly 40 million years. The earliest members of this bear family emerged in North America. The earliest known Ursidae bear was Perictus, which lived from the Eocene to the Miocene, roughly 38 to 18 million years ago. Perictus also lived alongside Alcyon, which lived between 34 and 30 million years ago. Both were tiny compared to the massive polar and brown bears we're familiar with today. During the Miocene, some Perictus bears moved to Eurasia via the Bering Land Bridge, and some eventually made their way to Africa. Some of the bears that settled in Europe later evolved into animals like Amphictecips and Amphicenodon, the latter of which is regarded as potential ancestors to pinnipeds like seals and sea lions. The true common ancestor for all modern bear species is Cephalogale, a small dog-like creature no bigger than a raccoon. Cephalogale first emerged in Eurasia 30 million years ago and soon evolved into Ursavis around 28 million years ago. Ursavis thrived and spread throughout Eurasia, eventually crossing the land bridge to take over North America. Between 20 and 15 million years ago, the species Ursavis elmensis diverged from the genus and began evolving into the modern bears we know today. Scientists believe pandas were the first modern bears to emerge from this divergent line. Around 13 million years ago, during the mid-Miocene, another divergence occurred. This time, the Tremarctini subfamily of short-faced bears split off from the rest of the Ursidae family. These short-faced bears lived in North America for a while before heading down to South America following the formation of the Isthmus of Panama. The short-faced bears were a dominant group, and some species grew to unfathomable sizes. Arctotherium, better known as the South American short-faced bear, is the most renowned of these prehistoric beasts. It could grow to a standing height of 14 feet and weigh as much as 3,850 pounds. So as you can see, prehistoric bears lived in Eurasia, the Americas, and Africa. These days you can still find bears in Europe, Asia, and the Americas. However, if you want to find wild bears in Africa, you'll be searching for a long time. The African bears. The last bear species to live in Africa was the Atlas bear, Ursus arctos crowtheri of North Africa. Most of them lived in the Atlas Mountains, for which they were named, a home range that stretched from Libya to Morocco. Technically speaking, Atlas bears were a subspecies of the brown bear, Ursus arctos, which evolved from Ursus etruscus sometime between 2 and 1 million years ago. Brown bears' success in Eurasia allowed them to spread to the Americas and Africa and thrive there as well. While they were definitely brown bears, recent genetic analysis has revealed some interesting oddities about the Atlas subspecies. A 2008 study of the subspecies mitochondrial DNA showed there were at least 2 lineages of Atlas bear. The first lineage, called Clade 5, shares mitochondrial DNA with bears from the Iberian Peninsula. The second lineage is called Clade 6, and these shared DNA with brown bears from Alaska and polar bears. How brown bears native to Africa are more related to bears from Iberia, Alaska, and the Arctic than they are to Middle Eastern brown bears is a mystery scientists have yet to solve. Yet there it is. However, despite its mysterious lineages, the Atlas bear was a typical brown bear in every respect. It was omnivorous, living on a diet of roots, fruits, acorns, nuts, and the odd bit of meat. It would have been a highly opportunistic hunter, tackling anything it could overpower. It was a scavenger too, picking off the leavings of other predators like leopards or Atlas lions. The Atlas bear was a fairly large animal, but not as large as polar bears and some other brown subspecies. Estimates give the Atlas bear a standing height of 9 feet and a maximum weight of around 1,000 pounds. While the Atlas bear lived in Africa for several hundred millennia, it did not live long after humans invented modern guns. The bears, which shared environments with ever-increasing human settlements, were considered a threat to livestock and human safety. As you've probably already guessed, this led to large-scale bear hunts. Armed with their new weapons, humans made quick work of the ancient beasts, as well as the lions and leopards that carried a similar threat. By the end of 1870, the last Atlas brown bear had been shot dead, marking the end of over 10 million years of bears in Africa. So if we're looking for a quick reason why there are no bears in Africa, we can start by pointing at human activity. Even before guns, the bears had been long persecuted by humans. The Romans and other historic empires and kingdoms hunted them for use as exotic pets or entertainment in gladiator arenas. That said, the Atlas bear's relative isolation didn't help it to begin with. Because of the Sahara Desert, its native range was highly restricted. Apart from Atlas bears, there is very little documentation of bears in Africa. A couple of prehistoric fossils have been found in Ethiopia and South Africa, the only evidence of ursids in sub-Saharan Africa. These fossils are attributed to Agrotherium africanum, a monstrous short-faced bear of the late Miocene and Pliocene. On all fours, the African short-faced bear had a nose-to-tail length of 7 feet and was tall enough to look an adult human straight in the eye. Weight estimates put it at 1,650 pounds, larger than most bears today. With these numbers, the giant bear was obviously a major force in African ecosystems. Though it probably lived primarily on plant material, it was also a meat eater that scavenged from others and hunted opportunistically. Its teeth were primitive compared to modern bears, and analysis of tooth wear patterns suggests an omnivorous diet. There is no clear reason why Agrotherium africanum went extinct, but the general consensus is that it was outcompeted by other animals and couldn't find enough food to sustain its considerable size. Based on the relatively few bear species throughout history and prehistory, we must look at how the nature of Africa itself prevents bears from moving there. Nowadays, the land bridge connecting Africa to Eurasia is fairly narrow and has a harsh desert climate. Though highly adaptable, scorching deserts are not a favorite for any bear species. The bears that did make it to Africa likely moved throughout the continent before the formation of the Sahara, the world's largest desert. Agrotherium africanum and its ancestors achieved this and spread to what we call sub-Saharan Africa. After the formation of the Sahara, sub-Saharan Africa was pretty much inaccessible to bears coming down from Eurasia. This is why animals like the Atlas bear were restricted to the northern tips of the continent. Why bears cannot survive in Africa today. The modern African wilds are teeming with incredible flora and fauna of all shapes and sizes. The continent has rainforests, deserts, savannas, and other environment types that support all sorts of animals, except bears. Full-grown grizzly and even black bears are big, strong, and fierce enough to hold their own against some of Africa's meanest critters. Their physical attributes would give any animal pause and intimidate many more. However, it is hard to see how bears could establish self-sustaining populations in the African wilds. One chief area of concern is reproduction. More specifically, successfully rearing cubs to adulthood. Bear cubs of all species generally reach independence between 2 and 3 years, and are basically helpless for most of that time. Apart from hiding in burrows or climbing trees, they have no defense apart from their fearsome mothers. This is already a problem for Asian, European, and African bears, who lose between 25 and 50% of their cubs before adulthood. This problem is even worse in Africa, a land with predators around every corner. For 2 to 3 years, a mother bear, without help from any other adult bears, must sustain herself while caring for up to 5 cubs in a land with more bloodthirsty killers than anywhere else. Lions, hyenas, leopards, jackals, African wild dogs, pythons, cheetahs, and even servals and carasols would be major threats to bear cubs. We also can't forget about resident omnivores like baboons or chimpanzees either. Additionally, some nasty birds of prey like the martial eagle could also try their luck on vulnerable cubs. Even taking a drink could be lethal. In many rivers and lakes, the Nile crocodile lurks awaiting unsuspecting victims. Frankly, it would be a miracle for even one bear cub to reach adulthood in an environment like the Serengeti. Multiple cubs from multiple litters growing to sexual maturity and successfully rearing their own young is almost unthinkable. While cubs are especially vulnerable, adult bears wouldn't be safe either. Even the biggest bears would have a tough time against a good-sized pride of lions or hyena clans. These two animals are already plenty powerful on an individual level, but their true power lies in collaboration. African wild dogs are also formidable pack hunters that could make the bears' stay in Africa difficult. Yes, bears outside Africa frequently share environments with fierce animals like wolves, tigers, and other bears. However, Africa's cast of killers is as powerful as it is diverse, and African predators would have a long head start on bears as far as adaptations to the landscape. This leads us to the next reason why bears would struggle to survive in Africa: adaptation issues. Finding food is one such issue. While many environments like forests could have the plant and animal food sources a bear could exploit, these food sources are usually spoken for. Plant materials like leaves, roots, nuts, and fruits are consumed by many types of birds, ungulates, and primates. The competition for meat, hunted or scavenged, is even meaner, with reptiles, birds, and many mammals all on the lookout for flesh. This competition would quickly put bears in a corner because they need to eat constantly to meet their high caloric demands. Catching prey would also be difficult in many cases. A lot of game like antelope, hares, and others are adapted to look out for and evade some of nature's strongest, fastest, and sneakiest specialty hunters: leopards, cheetahs, crocodiles, and others. A massive lumbering bear stands virtually no chance of catching able-bodied gazelles or zebra, for example. Away from food, there is the issue of climate. Many bear species, especially black and brown, have evolved to deal with cool environments with harsh winters. They have thick, dense fur and rich layers of fat to shield them from the worst of the cold. Africa, on the other hand, is generally hotter than most of the places where bears are found. In the African heat, the bear's extra fuzz and fat may prove their undoing. Lastly, our hypothetical African bears would still face the same challenge that wiped out their Atlas predecessors: humans. Many native animals like lions and hyenas are targeted by humans because of their proximity to settlements and livestock. Faced with stiff competition in the wild, our hypothetical bear would likely resort to attacking cattle, sheep, and goats for an easier meal. Such a move would put a target on the bear's back. Apart from locals protecting their homes and livelihoods, bears would have to navigate a land crawling with poachers and sport hunters. Africa is probably the #1 destination for international sport hunters, and bears are as enticing a quarry as anything. All in all, bears cannot survive in African wilds, at least without major human intervention and protection. However, even with these protections, factors like climate may still make their survival difficult.